Hey, Ghost Pirates fans. Welcome to episode 6 of Beyond the Graveyard, and I am joined by Ghost Pirates Director of Hockey Development and Assistant Coach Nick Tuzzolino. Nick, what's going on? Thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Just getting through another practice day and getting ready for our trip to Greenville here and getting the week going.
And you are going on this trip to Greenville. Last week you missed the trip to Atlanta, so are you excited to get on the road? Again, you've been doing this as a long time. We'll get into your playing career in just a little bit here, but you're going on the road as an assistant coach for the first time. What's that like?
Yeah, everything's about the schedule we're on, and getting used to the routine, really getting the guys in the habit of it. So for me, working with the D, just making sure that our talking points and our tips are on point and making sure they're ready to play for the road games because obviously the road's a lot different than at home.
And yeah, you know that very well. You played 15, 18 plus. It seems like your entire life you've been playing hockey. You stepped away from it. Are we going to say officially, unofficially? You can say no comment, but what is the status of your playing career, do you think, right now?
I would say this is a different league, but no, I would say I am not playing anymore. I would say that word retired.
Okay.
If you can use that.
Yes, okay. But take me through growing up on the East Coast in New York. Where did the hockey bug, catch your eye first? Was it, growing up with the family? Where did this avenue and this path really start to become real for you?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I have a sibling who did it older than me. He's 10 years older, so he was in the game, so I'd already been introduced to it. I had a family that watched Hockey Night in Canada a lot, so I had the Don Cherries on Saturday nights and just got really in love with the teams and the jerseys. I called the St. Louis the piano keys or the music notes, and the Oilers were the drips. And, I think that sparks every kid's passion is when they can relate it to something fun. And then, you get to see the sport and the pace and kind of goes hand in hand after that.
How early were you on skates?
I was probably between the ages of 4 and 6. I would consider probably 6 to 7 is where it's actually turned into relative hockey as opposed to just chase that black thing around and stand on your feet.
And where did you realize, I'm pretty good at this. I think I could maybe make a living out of it.
So that's kind of a funny one because I don't know if I ever felt that. Having an older brother do it, you kind of thought that, hey, I can do this too, and just got to work harder than him and try and not upstage him at every level, but you always have that compete. And I don't know if it was ever in my mind that I thought I was going to have to do this for a living, but it was more or less I'm going to do this for a living. So it was more conviction than talent, in my opinion. So
if you weren't a professional hockey player, I asked Ryan Scarfo this on last week's episode, but what do you think Nick Tuzzolino would be doing?
I do love sports, big golfer, but if it was a career and a passion, I love culinary. I've always been into cooking. My grandfather taught me many different ways. Even through school, I would take extra cooking classes. It's just something for me that I love, even now. Food Network, picking up tips on Chopped and diners, drive-ins, and dives. I just love the aspect of cooking, and cooking is a loving thing. So it's a good way to speak about how you feel.
Yeah, actually, Michael Bullion said the same thing, and I believe episode 2 of Beyond the Graveyard, Ryan Scarfo said that he's a really good cook. We may just have to have 3 of you guys do a Chopped or a Hell's Kitchen sort of type event where you just give you guys the ingredients and see what you can make. Do you think you could take those guys?
I don't know. I've been hearing rumors of some pretty good steaks, but I think I'll go with age and experience on this one. Okay,
and speaking of age and experience, you were playing in this league at 37. You love when I talk about that. 37 years of age, your kids got a kick out of that. You took a break from the game in terms of playing for, 3 to 4 years. You were coaching in the Ontario Junior Hockey League with the Buffalo Junior Sabres organization. You had ties to that organization as a player previously and sort of the connections of growing up in that area, but how did you get involved in coaching?
So it was my last season playing in Binghamton. I had suffered a broken jaw as a player, and that summer I had tried getting a job back home in hockey, and once they saw it come across that I was injured, they had reached out to me. They wanted to talk in the off season. During that off season, I had twin boy and girl, Casey and Logan, and then the job offer came through, so that was kind of a no-brainer in that regard. It started off as player development, and then it stemmed into being the general manager and coach of the OJHL team in there in junior hockey. And it really clicked for me when I realized all the years I put into playing pro and not making it, but going through the USHL, going through the OHL, going through getting cut, sat, scratched, you name it. All those experiences were feeding these younger kids and helping them get to the next level. And then a big light bulb went off in my mind. Hey, you might be pretty good at this. So that's kind of where it took off. And then, that span you talk about not playing of 4 to 5 years, I really started to dive into systems and, being able to create culture in players and seeing how players tick now. And that was kind of the arrow that pointed me to this.
Yeah, and you were working with players that ended up becoming drafted in the National Hockey League. You were drafted in the National Hockey League in the early 2000s. I asked the Ghost Pirates head coach Rick Bennett to recall his time when he was drafted by the Minnesota North Stars. So when the Islanders come calling, and it's a situation where, have you seen the Brett Favre photo? When he got drafted on draft night, he's got the cell phone. There's family all around him. What was, your draft night story, or is there one?
Yeah, it was, so my brother had gone through it, and my parents, they went to the draft in that era, and he's 10 years older than me. So this one, I was projected, I think, 120 or 130, so it wasn't a number that you would go to the draft. And obviously, I told you I loved golf. So my dad and I the next day set up a tee time during the draft. And as we're playing, a friend of mine who's now a head pro scout with a team, I won't use his name to save face, he called me joking that he was the Tampa Bay Lightning and that I was drafted in the second or third round. So that kind of caught me off guard and kind of put me in a bad way mentally, because I knew it was the second or third round and I ended up not going until the sixth or seventh. So that was a tough stretch. But once that did happen, the news was over at my house. My two buddies were there. We did interviews. We went out for the night to a local bar that allowed us to go in, because obviously we were underage. But in Buffalo, that's not a thing if you play hockey. So that was how it went. It went from a very scary, emotional thing to a relief, and obviously very thankful.
Wait, I got to go back. So someone pranked you that you got drafted. What did you do to this person that they felt, I've got to get Nick Tuzzolino back and pretend that he's been drafted by the Lightning?
So again, not to use his name, but we grew up together playing. We're best friends. We actually have same tattoos on our bodies that we share together. And it was one of those things where I played in the OHL. He went to Clarkson. And he's a different person now, but the person then, it was funny to him and us. And obviously I probably played my fair share of jokes to deserve it. I'm never innocent in that regard. So to each their own there.
That's a fantastic story. I don't know if I've heard guys getting called, hey, you have a similar name to the guy we're actually picking and we're going to draft you. And then they realize, wait, that wasn't my name. So to actually get that call, like you said, it affected you mentally for a second, but you end up getting picked, and it was a pretty remarkable professional hockey career that you endeavored upon. So then you come to the Savannah Ghost Pirates in the past season, mid-season. It's a team that was riddled with injuries. In the December to January stretch, there was a 1-12 record over 13 games. So they needed some confidence. They needed some veteran leadership because of the guys that had gone down. Guys had been recalled to Henderson and the Vegas clubs. What was your first impression of walking into this locker room and seeing the makeup and, more importantly, the potential of what this organization could be?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, watching Chopped and getting all the ingredients. Like, that's what I felt about the room. I felt it was all here and it was all in the basket, and, how do we put it together? And, a lot of it was just having that leadership voice to just connect Rick to them. A lot of it was the same message that they were just trying to understand. And sometimes it takes an older person to sift through it. When you have as many rookies as we did, or guys breaking into the league, and you got the facility and the crowd, you can very easily, kind of lose your way there. And being able to just pull back, enjoy it, respect where we are, respect, our coaching and vice versa as a player, that was really all we needed, and that confidence of we can. And you saw our last half of the year, I think we finished as one of the hotter teams in the league. And that's a credit to the fact that guys were just buying in, starting to push the right way. And again, a lot of that came from just somebody outside saying, it's not that bad.
And do you see that carrying over? I know we're only 1 week into this season, but even throughout training camp, that this culture, this identity, this team, which may not be fully formed, has a better idea of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the word culture. You can tell from day one, from the people you've interviewed before to, the guys around the room, the culture is there. We care about each other. We care about the human. And in my past history, that stems onto the ice. We're only 2 games in, like you said, so it's not a great sample size, but the mood in the room, the feel in the room, it's a very family-oriented vibe. And, with families comes, good accountability, good pushback, but also that, good camaraderie to where you can take it to the next level.
So for Ghost Pirates fans that maybe are wondering, wait, Nick 74 is on the bench now. What exactly do you do for the Savannah Ghost Pirates?
Well, from the coaching standpoint, I run the D, just basically help them with our systems, our structure, their development. Obviously, we have some Vegas contracted guys here that need to develop, so that's really big. And the hockey development part is we're really going to be looking to start up the youth. We have an amazing community that really wants to get behind us. We have a practice rink in Port Wentworth that's coming, and we really want to get this off the ground. And from my experiences in Buffalo, the youth and the fans feeds and drives everything we do. So like I said before, us being humble, knowing where we are in this community, getting that going, that's my job, is just really be that face to put with our team.
Yeah, and you've been around a lot of markets, whether it's the ECHL, the AHL level. How does Savannah rank? I have to imagine that it shocked you based on how supportive this group is of the Savannah Ghost Pirates.
I don't know if you can give them a ranking. I think they're in their own caste. Obviously it was our inaugural season, didn't go the best on paper. And, you walk out of that tunnel as you come off the ice after a period, and it's 3 or 4-0 after the first, and every fan's patting you on the back saying, you got it, where if anyone's played in any other cities at any other level, it's the boo birds, and it's, you need to get out of here, you need to be traded. And, it was one of those things where the fans, regardless, had fun, and it was come to the game, enjoy yourself, cheer on your team, they're working hard for you. And, if the result wasn't there, that's fine, but they backed us tenfold. So they're on a league of their own. The facilities are on a league of their own, and again, I think every player has said that, so it's got to be right. If everyone's saying it, it's got to be what the feeling is.
And defense, it's such a unique position, especially in hockey. You see the two-way guys of, the Cale Makars breaking into the National Hockey League. You have guys that aren't just the shutdown Bobby Holdy, Darian Hatcher type vibe, Scott Stevens, that all their job was in the early 2000s was to, take a guy's head off, play well in your own D zone, not really be expected to produce. How do you manage that, teaching these younger kids, hey, you have to be responsible in your own end zone first, but you can have that confidence to play with some flair? We have guys like, Joe Fleming, who's on a Vegas Golden Knights contract. Noah Carroll has shown some offensive upside. So how do you balance teaching the system, but also letting players be creative?
Yeah, well, I believe that, from the blue line and in your own zone is really the only thing you can control. And if you don't like playing D zone, get very good at it. So that way you can get out. And the big thing for me is once we do get out, I preach no matter whether you're, Noah Carroll or, Darren Skio, you got to get up the ice. And if you get up the ice and get the gap, that doesn't mean you're leading the rush, but you're supporting the rush. And that leads to those 50-50 pucks that you see D jump on and score. And, yes, the Cale Makars and those people of the world are definitely the separators. But if you look at past Stanley Cup champions like our affiliate, the Vegas Golden Knights, they're not built with those necessarily superstars. And I don't mean to say that about Theodore because he scores, but you look at the Petrangelos, the McNabbs, the Martinez, it's blocked shots, it's playing heavy, it's making first passes. So, yes, there has to be that balance, but all 6 of your defensemen have to play the same way. Yeah,
no, it's a very good point. And also, if you are running 7D, you see in junior circles 8D. What's your opinion on that? Is there especially for a defenseman trying to get in a groove during a game, do you just like the 6? Do you feel that the 7 has its place?
It definitely everything has its place and has its reasoning. If your 7th defenseman, let's say, is a power play guy and you really like him on that special team unit, it makes a lot of sense. If maybe he's a swinger who can play forward or D, and then maybe you can bump him up front for a shift. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. I guess for me, from a rolling standpoint of getting D into it, it is a little harder to get that 7 in the mix if it's just regular shifts. But having a back end that understands that there's 70 in the lineup, there is that shift here, shift there, and you are able to blend them in. But it's definitely not an easy task, and it's probably even harder on that 7th defenseman, more than the coach.
And away from the rink, I know that you're balancing the mental side of the game as a player. You're now doing the same as a coach. So when you come home after, that win against Norfolk, or you've had those situations as a player this past year, how do you decompress at home? It's a very unique bond that you have to have with either, a partner, a spouse, some friends that you're living with, some teammates you're living with at home. I think that's something that you've done a really good job of conveying to the guys that, hey, whatever happens here is here, but you also have to, have a life outside of this.
Yeah, we're humans at the end of the day, and this is our job, and anyone who says they're perfect at their job is probably lying to you. So I go home. My rock is still my wife, Tina. She knows the game, but she doesn't talk about the game ever. It's just one of those things. If I bring it up, she'll put in her 2 cents, but it is never really talked about after that, which again is that relief for me because, once I do get home and we do shut down, I can go back downstairs, flip open my computer, and I've had that kind of mental break to where sometimes you can come home and just keep harping on it, and that never works. So I do think there is a lot to being able to have that release.
And with the 3 little ones at home, are you ingraining them in the game just yet?
Yeah, it's definitely harder now just because they're getting older. They want to be a part of everything. But my middle son Casey is very into kind of the video stuff I'm doing and what details am I looking for. And my daughter's still convinced she's going to be the next D1 hockey player, so she's that one. And my son's very big into baseball, so he's seeing the work ethic that it takes to be an athlete, which is very important. Grayson, our strength coach here, has been talking to him about little things he can do with his legs. And for me, it was never about them playing hockey. It was about them embracing to go after something and what it takes to get there. Whether it's hockey, golf, a job, the work ethic takes the same. And that was the correlation I want to make with my kids. And obviously, selfishly, I love the fact that they get to come into this rink and kind of see dad at work in such an amazing atmosphere.
Yeah, and you get to not only work in an amazing atmosphere like End Market Arena, but also the city of Savannah, the surrounding areas of Pooler and Port Wentworth. What has stuck out to you in terms of, this new home that you uprooted your family from? The sacrifice has been made, which has happened multiple times in your playing career, but now, hey, how easy was it to convince them, we're going to Savannah, Georgia, in the South, I'm going to be an assistant coach, and this is going to be a fun ride?
The Southern hospitality is a real thing. I did go back to New York there for a little spell a couple days back, and I'm like, where's all the kindness? Not to be rude, but we've been welcomed with such open arms. I mentioned my son playing baseball. That organization, the Diamond Elite organization, opened their arms wide, took him in for practices and everything else. They've welcomed my family. Savannah Corridors there have been great for us. Like, everything in this town feels like they're related to you. And, when we decided to move here with the family, the kids were 100% guarantee, wife was 100% guarantee, and I was like, sounds like it's almost too good to be true. But this city truly has that Southern hospitality, kindness, and love, and it was a no-brainer. And
what has it been like working with the fellow coaches in the room? Alex Lowe, the assistant coach, Rick Bennett, the head coach. He doesn't even like being called the head coach. Sometimes you guys are that sort of three-headed crew that seem to bounce ideas off one another. Have you felt the freedom to express, hey, I see the game this way, and just kind of chime in where you can? It seems like your voice is heard.
Yeah, no, 100%. Losey's done a great job for me just because, again, he's very good with the video and some of that stuff that as a player I've missed out on in the last couple of years, and giving me tips on what to do and, things to say, when to say, and it's been great in that regard. Rick's obviously given me the opportunity to control the D for as much as I want. And again, you have an even say in practices and everything that goes down the line. And any good coaching staff, just like any good team, we play our roles, we put in our 2 cents. And, being an assistant coach is the easy job, because you're not the guy that's looked on. So we're just there to support as much as we can with Rick and help him get to his vision.
And for you, going from a player in this locker room, teammates with a guy like Alex Swetlikoff, Brandon Estes, you're now their coach. So what has that adjustment been like to the guys that are very friendly with you, because you're a very funny guy, very social guy, but you also have to be the guy to now tell them, hey, this is how you have to play? Yeah,
it's we as a coaching staff discussed how that would look this year, and it wasn't a worry of mine, only for the fact that this room has been very respectful. They know my family, they know my kids. I made it pretty clear that, what my goals were in this life of hockey. From last year speaking up negatively or harder when I had to, patting a guy on the back. And it's been that way this year too. Like, I can walk around and joke with Sweaty in the valleys and, of the world, and it comes back a little bit, but when I have to speak vocal or be serious, they're very much on point and respect my word. When it's time for me to get to the board, they're all attention. And, it is that fun balance right now of player-coach, so to speak.
Okay, one last one, Nick. If there's one thing Ghost Pirates fans need to know, or possibly something they don't know about Nick Tuzzolino, what would you like to share?
Let me think. I really enjoy water sports in the summer. Big, wake surfer, cottage, boat, jet ski, that type of person. But so I guess I'm a summer guy.
Okay, Mount Rushmore of movies, all time, any genre.
Mount Rushmore movies. I will have to stay with some of my go-tos. Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise would be number 1. Wedding Crashers, just because I don't think that's ever going to be remade at the funniest as it was. And I think I'll go with Shawshank Redemption, because for some reason when it's on TV, you just can't turn it off.
No excuses. Play like a champion. Nick Tuzzolino, episode 6 of Beyond the Graveyard. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Cristiano.